Hi guys, this is Rayner for Team Nociel, and since I've not actually uploaded much Yu-Gi-Oh content, I figured I'd show you my latest build of my Mermails. It's pretty standard for Mermails. They're Mermails, so there's not too much to be debated about. But to start off, 2 Abyss Megalo. I find 3 a bit overkill, but that's just personal preference. I only want to run 2, and plus this is a lot cheaper. 3 Lindy. I think it's completely staple at 3. Even though I'm only running 2 Sphere, I think you need 3 Lind just because of the 2 plays you want turn 1 are either set Lind or summon Undyne. And you want the chance of that to be quite high, so I think you need to run 3 of these. And then we've got 2 Pike. I think 3 is a little bit overkill because it is your backup option for your starting play, but you don't really want to have too many of them in the deck. Now we've got the Atlantean Engine, which is 3 Dragoons. It's a crazy good card. Instant search when it's used a water monster's being sent to the graveyard for a water monster's effect. So basically, with any of these Mermail's abilities, or with, say, Snowdust Giant or Bahamut Shark, it triggers this effect, which lets you search any Sea Serpent. Then we're running 2 Infantry and 2 Marksmen. I'm only running 2 of each at the moment just because space is a real issue in this deck, and I figure that 2 of each leads the most consistency. You never really want to have more than 2 of each of these at any one time. I've only once felt I was short of 1, and that was when I was trying to OTK and I needed an extra infantry off my Diva Search to be able to kill him. I didn't have it, so I had to go about it another way. That was the only time that I felt that I was short of any of them, but that was one time out of hundreds of games of testing. And then we have Genix Engine, Undyne, very, very good card. It's basically, it sets you up with a free send from deck to use its effect, which is absolutely brilliant. And then we can just quickly glance over these. We don't need them, but well, we do need them, but we don't want them. Just 2 Genix Controller. And then we've got the Sea Serpents, which is 2 Deep Sea Diva. Diva's a really good card. It's an instant Catastor, it's an instant Librarian, it's an instant Gungner if you've got the right stuff in hand as well, so you've got a lot of options with it. It's a really good card, and it's searchable by Dragoons. And then we play Mooling Glacier, just because, as I said, this is Sea Serpent as well, so this is searchable by Dragoons. And Game 1, it's too good not to play. Game 2 and 3, it's debatable whether you want to keep it in or not, depends on the matchup, but it's too good not to play in Game 1. And then we have basically our we don't want to get killed and we like special summoning free big dudes, which is 1 Gores and 2 Tragodia. Basically, I had the 2 Tragodia in here all the time just because Tragodia is really good with this deck. Because you've got so many 7s, obviously you've got Gores and you've got Megalos. It means that if you drop this, you ditch a Megalo, you can nick their 7, which could be a Gores, it could be a High Priestess, which then lets you go into Big Eye, which does open up a lot of different plays, which is why Tragodia is really good. It helps you go into Gachi, it helps you go into different Xyz if you need to. It's really good, and Gores is just monster. I mean, it can win games by itself, which is good enough reason to play it, especially when you're not running many traps. This is the stuff I consider staple. It's 2 MST, 1 Heavy Storm, 1 Pot of Avarice, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Dark Hole. And then we get on to something that not many other people, well, look, I've seen quite a lot of people run this. Most people only seem to run 1 of this. I run 2 Salvage. I find Salvage too good not to run more than 1 of. If it gets to late game, topping it tends to mean you win. Because if you've got an Infantry and a Diva in the bin, you just add them both to hand, or if you've got a Controller left in deck, you add an Undyne back. So many options just with that alone. but you can do this, then you get the infantry, and then you summon the diva, and then you can get a marksman, which then lets you go into Gungnir, which is absolutely huge. A late game Gungnir or Black Rose Dragon can actually change the game, and that's just from one card. One salvage can get you a Gungnir. And then last card is Allure. Basically, you've got your 3 Genix Undines, which say, I'm a dark, I'm searching you a dark, unless your opponent's actually going to Veiler it or negate it, which, to be honest, if they're doing that, you're not going to need the plus anyway. Basically, the controller's a free card. You don't actually care about it. It's just, with the search you get, or the destroy a card from the Undine sending, you're always going to be back up at 6 cards. Undine is the 7th card. You don't need it. It's just there as a plus. So Allure essentially becomes a pot of greed. Or, if necessary, you can banish the Trag or Gores. But you don't want to, but obviously it's a pot of greed if you get the right stuff. It's just a brilliant card. And the trap lineup, I'm going to apologise for some proxies in a minute. Got 2 Torrential. You've got so many little dudes that you need to clear the way for when you set up for the big plays, so 2 Torrential is very vital, and you don't want to play Solemn Warnings in this. I just find that if you run too many traps in this, it just kind of clogs it completely. So I'll only run 2 Abyss Sphere. I was running 3, but this deck's already at 41. It's very, very tight for numbers in here, so I'm sticking with 2 for the moment. We might go back up to 3. We'll see with testing. And then the proxies. This is 3 Spiritual Water Art Ow, or Aya, or whatever you call it. But basically it's the card that says tribute 1 water monster, look at your opponent's hand and send 1 card to the graveyard. Which basically means you can use that card to drop their Veiler, to drop their Dark Hole, their Heavy Storm, their Avarice, their Monster Reborn, or their Shark. Stuff that can help them go off next turn. It's absolutely huge to be able to stop their big plays. I mean, there was one game I've managed to play this, tribute one of my dudes, it was my 5th water, look at their hand, saw the Veiler, and I saw nothing else that I cared about. And he didn't have any back row, so I was like, well, I drop the Veiler, and the Mooling Glacier will deal with the rest. So I think 3 is absolutely staple. Right, and now we're on to the extra deck, and I'm going to have to apologise for some more proxies, but it will be ready for the time tournament comes round. You run 1 Catastor. Catastor is brilliant in this deck. It's basically, you can go Deep Sea Diva into Marksman into this, which means that you've got a 1 card Catastor, which isn't an out to most things, which is really, really good. Armory Arm, you can get it out, so you need to run it. Black Rose Dragon, again, you can get it out. It can clear the field. It can be crucial. This will be a Duloran, because it can set up absolutely massive plays late game. If you can get a good Abyss Sphere off, and then your Diva, and then if you've got your Spike out, or your Pike out, and then you Diva, whatever you search with Diva, you can use Duloran to bounce it back to your hand, so you can use it for your Megalo or whatever. Absolutely huge. Gungnir is absolutely ridiculously good card in this deck, because even if you have to go Controller Pike, it's still going to be a really good plus. Gets rid of your controller as well for a much more useful card. 1 Mistworm, you can get it out again, so it's better to be with it than without it. I played against ninjas with the White Dragon Ninja Safe Zone combo, and I was like, how can I get an out to this? Because I don't have anything. Oh, look at my extra deck, I see a Mistworm. So I spent several turns trying to get my hand into a position where I could 1 turn Mistworm him, and that ended up winning me the game because he had nothing else after I managed to bounce the Safe Zone to kill the White Dragon Ninja. Then 1 Scrap Dragon, you need it, just in case. And 1 Librarian, which I'll come on to explain about in a minute. Got 1 Abyss Dweller. Basically, it's a really, really good card, and it helps trigger Dragoons, so no reason not to run it. Again, with a proxy, I apologise. This is a Digusto Phoenix. Gachi Gachi, Big Eye, which is awfully nice. Leviathan Dragon can trigger Marksman's effect. Snow Dust Giant can trigger Dragoons, and it helps that a couple of games I've played against 6 arms where I've revealed 4 from my hand, and they've really struggled to get over this, let alone the Megalo and the Moaling Glacier. But it can be a good card, and it can help you have an out to something. Zenmains. And that's it. I don't run Bahamut Shark or Aero Shark just because lack of room in here. And I think that Bahamut Shark, it can be a really good card, but I'd rather go into Snow Dust. I find Snow Dust more useful more of the time, because even though it's 400 less, the chances are its effect is going to make all of your opponent's stuff 400 or 400 less, so that's more important to me. Right, now we have our side deck. We've got 1 Air Orca. This is such a good card for the side deck of this. It's a Sea Serpent, so that auto makes it searchable with Diva and with Dragoons, which automatically you think that's really good. But then its effect is, once per turn you can banish 1 Fish, Sea Serpent or Aqua type monster from your hand to target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. Then banish this card until your next standby phase. Basically, what this is doing is destroying their macro, destroying their D-Fisher, destroying whatever is stopping your big plays going off. So basically it means that Deep Sea Diva turns into an MST, and this can keep bouncing back. So basically it's a staple at 1 in this. And then we have 2 Veiler. There are some matchups like Gear and Wind-Ups where you can get away with putting this in. I don't like Max C. Max C is too risky. Even though I've got the Traj and the Gores, if you don't draw them, they're still going to win. Or if they call monsters, they're still going to win. So, I prefer Veiler. Does more. Then we have the 3rd MST, just in case you go up against Trap Heavy, or basically just trying to say, I don't like you, macro. Then we've got 2 Soul Taker. It just says no to big dudes, says no to elemental heroes and Chaos Dragons if they still pop up, because they do occasionally. Then we've got 2 Deck Devastation Virus, and I bet you're all thinking, unless you know what you're on about with this deck, you're thinking, what? How can you get that off? But when you think about it, I've got 1 Gores, 2 Tragodia. And you think, okay, that's fair enough, but that's still only 3 targets. But then you think, I have 2 Deep Sea Diva in the deck, which both can say, I'm a TG Hyper Librarian or a Cataster. So basically they are auto targets for this. Which basically against Wind-Ups and Geargia and stuff like that, this kills them instantly. So it's basically you go Diva into Librarian, into Deck Deva, and then you know what they're drawing, and it helps for you for Ow and for Moaling Glacier and stuff like that if you're keeping them in. It's really good. That's why I'm running 2 of. And then we've got 2 Dust Tornado. Basically, again, it's just the I don't like macro. We don't like macro at all. And then we've got 3 Goes and Match because we don't like Wind-Ups. There's no other reason for that. There will be another matchup where it's useful, but it's purely in this 3 just because we don't like Wind-Ups. And then 2 Imperial Iron Wall. We don't like our plays getting stopped, so let's stop them. That pretty much sums that up. Well, that's the deck list. If you've got any questions or you want to comment on it, please feel free to drop us a comment. And if you want any other content, just give us a shout. This is Rayner for Team Nocio.